But see, Dad used to sell insurance during the day, and then he played these at night.
Oh, I see.
So he made pretty good money considering, you know.
Yeah.
He made $40 a week playing.
So did he start cutting hair as soon as he came here?
Yeah, because you know what? He didn't. They wanted him to collect insurance. In Cleveland, he had a route where he would collect, you know, premiums from people. And I used to go with him. If he was going with an Italian, I used to go in with him. We'd have coffee and he'd collect. He had this big insurance book. So when he came to California, even though he was experienced in selling insurance, they wouldn't give him a route. It was strictly commission. And you can't live on commission if you know anybody. By the time you sell, you get get your premiums maybe 2 or 3 months later. So that's why he used to do barbering in Italy. So we met some friends here.
He used to do barbering in
That's
Italy?
where he learned barbering.
And he left there when he was 16, right?
Yeah, so he was already working. His uncle had a barber shop. Years ago, you went to, everybody had to learn a trade.
Right.
And so if you went to a trade, you went as an apprentice. So if you went to the barber shop, which was his uncle's, then the first year or whatever it is, you just swept up the floor and did the errands. Then the second year, maybe you got so you could put the soap on, because they used to shave a lot.
Right.
Put the soap on. Then little by little, you start to cut hair.
But his father wasn't a barber.
No, his father was a
uncle.
shoemaker.
Shoemaker, that's right.
But he actually could make shoes. He had a lat where he could actually make beautiful shoes out of leather, you know. So Jim said either he had to learn a trade. It was either being a tailor, which he was considering because he had an uncle that was a tailor, or an uncle that was a barber. So that's how you went to work with, you didn't get any money, you worked as an apprentice and you learned the trade that way.
Right.
So he said he went with the barber. So he used to cut hair. When he came to this Cleveland, he could cut hair when he was 16, and he had a route and used to cut hair for 10 or 15 cents. So he was cutting hair, and then there was a couple of barber shops that this one, I don't know where this barber was, he used to have a back room where they would sell wine and play cards. So he would hire Jim to work the front of the store, and he can go in the back and drink wine and play cards with the guys.
Yeah.
But then Jim learned how to play cards with them.
Yeah.
So they would play this game that's called Trisetti, and it's a very hard game. You had to know every card. So he learned that game, and he says there was a couple of men, boy, when they come and they play, was you make a mistake, they kill you. Whoa. So finally they wanted him to be a partner with this one really tough guy, and Jim said in Italian with respect, I'm not that good to play. He said, you sit down and you play. You know, Jim would tell the story. Oh. So he says when you would make a mistake, throw the wrong card, he would take the card, he would look up in the air and boy, look out, he'd kill you. Oh, but Dad says he was afraid to play with him. But this Trisetti that they played. Yeah. But he got to the point where he was, and they were selling wine out of the back door. And somebody come in the barber shop, sometimes he put the sign closed. The Dad was cutting hair, but then when he came here, we met the Guminas, which were from Cleveland. We didn't know them; they were cousins of Patillos, and they were both barbers. One of them was a nice guy, Sal. He had been in an automobile accident, and he got curvature of the spine. His spine, and he actually was bent completely. He'd come in and he'd look up at you like this, but he was still cutting hair. He had his own shop, and he talked. Jimmy says, "You get your shop," and he had a cousin Carl that had a barber shop. And they said to Jim, you go get your license and we'll help you with the shop. And they did. They helped him get his license, and they loaned him each, I think Carl loaned Dad $200 and Sal loaned him $250. And we bought that shop on Washington Boulevard. Dad, we paid him off in a year. So we lived in the back of the shop and everything. We paid it off, and then we sold a car. We drove out a 42 Buick that time, which was hard to get from the war. You had to have a priority, and we had this beautiful Buick we drove out. We had to sell it. And we bought that LaSalle that used to sit on top. Well, that would be a key. That would be. In fact, you know, the other night when we went, well, you weren't with us. We went to the club just before you came. We went to a club in Hollywood where Lorraine's mother used to sing with the Pied Pipers, and she was singing. And there's a place on Franklin, as it comes into Highland, that there was a gas station, and we were going into the valley, and I'll never forget, I always think about that. The gas station is still there, and our car conked out. So Dad in the middle, try to push it out, and we got some guys came to help him. We pushed it into that gas station. Then he called Patillo. Patillo came and picked us up. How we used to go with that LaSalle. It was a two-seater, and there was a place in the back by the back window that he used to lay.
Oh,
that
really?
was his spot. Talk about
The seat would
seatbelts.
come back, like a seat would come back from the
There
back
was no
seat.
seat back. It was
Well-
it was just for the front seat, but that was the back where the back window come down like a visor. It was about this much. That was in the back of that. It
And
was
I
where
would
the
sit
back
there.
window was.
Was it
Oh.
like he was
And you
sleeping in
used
the
to lay
trunk?
there.
I'd sit there.
That was your place. You
Yeah.
could have sat in front with us
That was
because
dangerous, because if we got hit, I would have gone flying.
yeah.
With those
yeah.
seatbelts,
But,
right?
yeah.
but who had seat belts? You would have been either next to us, sitting with us, or on my lap.
Yeah.
But that way you liked that
that's
spot up there, and
dangerous,
you'd crawl up there, and we used to let you stay. Think about it now. They have us in Child Protective Services.
I think I remember when the car conked out there.
You do?
I think I remember.
Oh, that
yeah.
was that was really bad. We had no business even going that far with it, but that was a LaSalle, beautiful. Had the long nose, with the little
What color was it?
windshield. It was, I think, we're talking about 48 when this happened, and that was like a 36
What color? What color?
black.
Black?
But we kept that, boy, that would have been a collector's, because the
Yeah.
LaSalle was made by the Cadillac company,
Oh, boy.
and that was a good car.
It was around the Hollywood Bowl area they conked out, right?
Well, that's exactly where this is. You're right. In fact, when you pass the Hollywood Bowl and you turn on to Highland, well, there is, in fact, the other night I'm looking and that gas station is still there. There's a big
Wow.
church on the corner, and across from the church is this gas station. It's still there. I don't know if it's the same make and everything, but it's still there. Yeah, so. But that time we lived in the back of the barber shop. When
Yeah.
he bought the shop, there was no living quarters, especially if you had a child. They were renting garages. You couldn't find a room in LA in 47, 48. So he bought this barber shop that there was living quarters in the back. It was petitioned off. And so we used to, he had his crib, and we had the little 3/4 bed we used to, and then there was another
It was a
little
cement
petition.
floor, too.
Yeah, it was part of the store.
It was cement.
There was no bathroom. It was just